Welcome back. This is the fourth and penultimate episode of our Cheltenham Festival mini podcast series for SBK. Buckle in. We have another 15 minutes ready for you where we'll be reviewing some of Thursday's action and previewing Friday's action, the final day of the 2024 Cheltenham Festival. Tom Collins here. I'm joined by Ross Millar as ever. Ross, Tuesday and Wednesday went pretty much to plan for us. We had a few winners along the way. Thursday, very, very frustrating for myself. How have you got on?
Yes, same TC. It wasn't a big day for me. J-Lo ran well in the first, ran into third, and that was a nice little each way return. In Excelsis Deo in the race we've just watched there, the plate was given a lot to do and wasn't helped by the fall at the top of the hill, but truthfully that wasn't going to win. So a steady day, but we've had two good days, so we can't be too grumpy, and then we'll regroup and go again tomorrow. Of course, we still have two races yet today. You know, by this evening we could be talking about what a great Thursday it was, but maybe not.
Yeah, I hope I'm not going to be talking about how Jade de Grugy finishes second and then Angel Thorne gets there and finishes second as well. It's been one of those days for me with Envoy LN. Home by the Lee actually ran very well, and then Creberley just hitting the crossbar a lot on a very football-themed day with Harry Redknapp and Sir Alex Ferguson finding the winner's enclosure. Sir Alex on two different occasions. Let's discuss the Stairs Hurdle then first. Yeah, again, it turned into a sprint. It's called the Stairs Hurdle, but it's basically the Sprinters Hurdle. They don't race until 4 furlongs out. Sprint for the finish line, and this is why Florian Portis has such success in this race over the last 4 years, winning it twice, finished second again today. He ran brilliantly, but the favourite T Hoopu came out on top and showed his class late on. Already touched on Home by the Lee, finishing third. What did you make of the Stayers Hurdle this year?
I mean, it's good to see Gordon Elliott get his win, isn't it? You know, the horse has been running well this week without winning. It was an exciting race for me, TC. I'm completely with you. It runs very much like an Irish point to point, which will run over 3 miles. And anyone that will tell you that they race for about a mile, maybe not even that. You know, they crawl round, and I was actually frantic. This is how exciting it was. I was scrolling back through our WhatsApp messages from 2 years ago when you were screaming, "They're letting him do it again," as Florian Porter looked from the front for his second one, because for a moment it looked like it was going to happen again, and probably just slightly older legs. I mean, he didn't quite have the speed to sort of hold them off up the hill, but again, it was another race where off the front, you know, they were able to dictate things, and I don't understand when they're riding, particularly Noble Yates, a horse that you know is going to stay, why you don't just grab the race by the scruff of the neck and drag horses into deep water that some won't want to go into. So it's pretty unsatisfactory for me, but those that were on T Hooper at short prices got paid, and well done to them.
Yeah, full credit to the connections of Florian Porter as well. They turn up every year and the horse runs a great race. But as you say, it very much gave me the deja vu feeling of when I backed Classical Dream a few years back, and they just walked. They did it again today. Fortunately for favourite backers, T Hoop, who doesn't just have stamina but also has speed. And he came out on top in the end. For Gordon Elliott, as you say, who had 8 places prior to that race this week. It was a frustrating week for him, though his horses have all been running well. Romeo Coolio as well in the bumper on Wednesday evening. Okay, what about the Ryanair then? Dan and Harry Skelton teamed up again for success. It's been a great week for both of them. Protectorat won this race on the drop back in trip. Envoy LN, very, very rough second, in my opinion. There was no excuses, but I thought he came there to win. Traded at 1-9 in running. Rachel Blackmore was hard on the steel coming to the last. Horse just didn't find enough up the hill.
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought the same, and I saw her interview on ITV where she said that maybe she was perhaps looking like she was holding on to more than she had. I think he would perhaps have expended a little bit of energy early. He was really quite sort of wound up in the preliminaries and certainly down at the start, but ran another great race. And what's that? The 6th festival he's been to. He's been a credit to connections. Protectorat, I mean, I have to hold my hand up. I had him absolutely wrong. I mean, if you gave me 10 picks, he probably wouldn't have been one of them. You know, I just couldn't see it for him, but great performance. He jumped very well and he looked more rideable than normal. And what is good is it shows connections. You haven't got to run your horse in November and December and then hide away until Cheltenham Festival in March. This horse has run, Fleur de Lis, back to Cheltenham in a big handicap. You know, he's run in Newbury in what was the Denman Chase. So you can do it. You can run these horses and they can still deliver big performances. Obviously, it's different for each different horse, but that might just encourage people to be a little bit braver and think about outside the box. You know, dropping a horse back from a Gold Cup trip, which he clearly didn't stay into this race, and they got rewarded. So yeah, well done to them. Not a race I don't think will live long in the memory. The Ryanair does seem to year on year perhaps deliver slightly underwhelming results, but a Grade 1 at Cheltenham is a Grade 1 at Cheltenham. So well done to Dan Skelton and of course Team GB.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good day for Great Britain on the whole. We have still got two races left, and Ireland look to have a firm grasp on both of those if you look at the market. But otherwise, it's been a very solid day for the home contingency. Before we move on to our tips and overview of Friday's contest, I will again mention that SBK has this offer, double winnings offer for the Cheltenham Festival. You can choose any horse in any race on the final day of the Cheltenham Festival now, and you will get double the odds. 18 plus max stakes do apply, and read the T and C's if you're interested in that offer. Okay, on to the final day of the Cheltenham Festival. We begin with the JCB Triumph Hurdle at 1:30. Please note there is no Sergino now. Both him and Burdett Road were the two talking horses around the new year. Both of them aren't making the race. Sergino was pulled out on Thursday morning due to Nicky Henderson's form. They're just taking a bit of caution with their runners right now, and I think we respect that. Willie Mullins now dominates the market with plenty of horses up there, like so often this week, to be honest, in these races. He's got 4 of the top 5 in the betting. Do you like one of his?
Yeah, I was quite sweet on Bunting TC from some way out. I thought he shaped better than the bare result at the Dublin Racing Festival in the Spring Juvenile. He looked to me awkward. I think this track is going to suit him. He'll have a nice long hill to run up, and the ground looks to be on the soft side. It's going to take some getting. But I did reference in the Ultimate Pod that if Paul Townend didn't jump onto Cargis, assuming now that he was given the choice, and I think that's probably the case, it might just be a little bit of a nod towards Stormheart that he feels that this horse has stepped forward from the Dublin Racing Festival, that he stays on that horse. One at a bigger price for the home team. Salva is a very hard horse to get a grip on of quite what level he's got. He's been winning easily in lesser races, but he did cope very well with the undulating track at Chepstow on soft ground to win a Grade 2. He's got his ground here. Gavin Sheehan jumps on board. If he drifted out to a big price, he might be interesting, but probably a race I'll watch. I've got a little bit on Bunting already, and I'm not inclined to go in again, to be honest, TC.
Salva currently 10 to 1, Bunting 16 to 1. I'm also going to be backing Bunting. I think it's a very fair price, everything you've said. Shaped nicely. Didn't jump very well at the DRF, I didn't think, but moved into the race well and was actually hitting the line strongest of all the runners. It's very much a similar race to what we saw at Leopardstown. The majority of those horses are running here. So Bunting is one of the two I'll be backing. The other one is Ethical Diamond, though I do wish the ground dried out a touch for him. I don't think it's going to be ideal. Nevertheless, he shaped very well when last seen, and he's going to be overlooked due to jockey bookings. You did mention jockey bookings there. I think the jockeys are largely staying on the horses they rode back in February at Leopardstown, with Paul choosing Stormheart, Danny Mullins on Card Geese, Mark Walsh on Madgeborough. The only difference is that Brian Hayes is riding Salvador Monday, who is an interesting horse in the race, I guess.
Yeah, he had form in France with Sergino. There wasn't much to separate them at all. Obviously, the Donnellys bought both of those horses out of that race in France. Speaking to Adam Mills, he did think that Sergino was unfavoured by the position on the track on that occasion, and as such, he thought he was the better horse. But if we think Sergino was a red-hot favourite for this, Salvatore Mundy's got to be of interest, but you would just be a little bit concerned about trying to win this off such a long break.
Yeah, first time up for Willie Mullins, it would be some training performance, but we've seen this guy do it time and time again. We'll move on to the county hurdle now. If you want a big price winner on the final day of the festival, looks like it's going to be the right spot for it. However, the money is all coming for King of Kingsfield, who has form with both Ballyburn and Slade Steel. 2 winners already this week in the Supreme and the Gallagher. Leur de Sud is also attracting some support for Dan Skelton, who's won this race previously, including last year. What do you make of those two, and who do you like in the race?
Yeah, I mean, I've missed the price on King of Kingsfield, to be honest, TC. But his form is looking very solid now, isn't it? Lord de Sud, I'm just not convinced that he doesn't want to go up a little bit in trip. I think he just stays on at the same pace at the end of his races. Westport Cove was one that caught my eye, running at Clonmel behind Kay de Bourbon, who's one of the favourites for the Martin Pipe on the final day. I thought Westport Cove could have won that race if given a bit more of a aggressive ride, sort of turning in. I think this drop back in trip will suit him. And Michael O'Sullivan, who rides him here, also rode him at Clonmel. So I wonder if this has been sort of a bit of a plan from some way out. Hansard is a horse I like. I think he'll like this strong pace over this trip. He won well at Newbury, and I don't think he was suited by the way the race was run at Ascot last time. Bit of soft ground won't harm him. So Westport Cove and Hansard would be the two items in there.
Yeah, a couple of big priced selections for Ross. Interesting, there's been some money for Absurd for Willie Mullins. I mean, Paul Townend does get on, but this horse surely wants good ground, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was very surprised when I just flicked on now and looked at the price, I thought he was very short. Yes, he's got plenty of ability, not perhaps the most straightforward, and all of his horses form is on better ground, so I couldn't see that myself.
No, me neither. I'm going to be backing two in here. So Scottish for Emmett Mullins and JP McManus, just because of the connections. And this horse remains relatively lightly raced over hurdles. And the other one is Pied Piper, who was second in this race last year. Yes, he has to carry top weight, but he's only a couple of pounds higher. I think he's almost certain to finish in the top 6 or 7. Hopefully, he can grab a place at around 12 or 14 to 1. Albert Bartlett time now. And the last of the novice hurdles this week. Reading Tommy Wrong is the jolly. And yes, you guessed it. He's trained by Willie Mullins. Willie Mullins also has Dancing City and High Class Hero, who are right up there on the top of the market. The English challengers led by Gidley Park and Captain Teague. Any strong fancies here?
I do like High Class Hero, as we said in the preview pod. He's by Suleimani, who gets nice, tough horse. He's got plenty of experience. This will be his 5th run. Seems to be improving with stepping up in trip. Patrick Mullins on would suggest that he's not the stable first string, but Patrick's very capable, as we know. Nice, strong, tough stayer. He'd be interesting to me. Gidley Park, I just can't see this test suiting him. I just think he's a bit too immature physically for this sort of test. Will only be a nice horse going forward. If the rain comes tonight, the jukebox man for Ben Pauling, obviously already had a winner for Harry Redknapp today. I think this is a horse that might just run well at a big price. He was 3rd in the Challow, staying on, and the softer the ground, the better for him.
Yeah, the jukebox man, is 20 to 1. High Class Heroes 9 to 1 right now. This is just not a race that I'm interested in. The Albert Bartlett tends to throw up a shock or two. So I'm just going to watch and learn, I think, looking forward to next season with these horses. Now it's the big one. The Cheltenham Gold Cup. No Shishkin, no Hewitt, but still a nice lineup for the race. And Galopin Des Champs is definitely the one they all have to beat. Currently around 11 to 10, 6 to 5. Last year's champion just roared away from his rivals up the hill that time. Since then, he was disappointed on his reappearance over a shorter trip, won the Sables, then won the Irish Gold Cup. I'm very much with Galopin Des Champs. Are you with me, or are you looking for a bit of value?
No, I'm with you now, TC. I would perhaps have sided with Shishkin if he'd have turned up, but I think Galopin Des Champs is better than these. I've backed Corach Rambler each way. I think the race should still be run to suit him. I think he'll be finishing fast, might run into a place. But providing Galopin Des Champs turns up at his best, and Willie Mullins has pretty much managed to do that with all of his runners this week. Maybe Facile Vega was disappointing again today. I think he's his to win. I think this is a deeper race, but I think he's an improved horse for this second season in open company.
Yeah, not just from a personal level do I want him to win. Just from a fan of the sport, I would love to see Galopin Des Champs cruise up the hill and power away from his field again, really stamping himself as this high-class animal that we'll be waiting to see next season. Okay, on to the Hunters Chase now. You had phenomenal success in this race last year with a 66 to 1 winner, and Premier Magic is back again. Back to the well?
Yeah, I don't see why not, TC. I mean, the ground is going to make it a test. He stays really well. Bradley Gibbs is very confident on him. I've put him up earlier in the season. I think he's been overpriced since pretty much crossing the line last year. And then just one other I'd chuck for the UK team that sometimes get a bit overlooked because they, quote unquote, don't have the best amateur riders is Scene Nominee for Fiona Needham. She won it as a rider back in 2002. This mare has been a revelation on soft ground. She's run well at Cheltenham twice without winning. But that was on good ground. She's definitely better on soft ground. She'll get to her conditions tomorrow. I think she'll run a big race. She'll be finishing very strongly.
Premier Magic 13 to 2, Scene Nominee 12 to 1 currently. I'm going to be very boring in this race. I have to put my hands up and say Hunter Chases aren't my bag. Ross knows a lot more about these pointers than I do. However, I've watched all of them when they've raced under rules, and It's on the Line, to me, looks the obvious winner. Emmett Mullins again, Derek O'Connor again, JP McManus again. They all teamed up with Corbett's Cross earlier in the week. Yes, last time he was very tired when Billaway looked like he was going to power past, but I love the way he rallied. That very rarely happens. You go back to this race last year, he finished second behind Premier Magic, but he was the one that was staying on best up the hill. I think if he's positioned better, he'll justify favouritism in the Hunter Chase. The Mare's Chase is the penultimate race on the final day, and it could be yet another one for Willie Mullins. Dino Blues, 11 to 10 favourite currently. She's owned by JP McManus, who also has Limerick Lace in the race, second favourite. I won't be having a bet here again, but I think Dino Blue's very tough to beat. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I was lucky enough to get an anti-pose position on her at the start of the season. It's a no-bet race for me tomorrow, but hopefully she'll get the job done.
Yeah, she's a very short price, but justifiably so, given her form against the boys. We end Friday and the Cheltenham Festival with the Martin Pipe. Several stars have won this race. Don Poli, Calalta Vic, Champagne Classic, Galopin Des Champs, Banbridge, all in the last decade, all of whom have gone on to Grade 1 success. Is there a star in here? And if so, who is it?
I think if there's a star in here, it's possibly Kay de Bourbon. It's been really well spoken about. It's going to definitely improve this step up to 2 mile 4. Gets Michael O'Sullivan on, who I think it would be hard to argue isn't the best when you take into experience into consideration conditional riding in this race. But he's a short enough price. Castle des Mottes was really well fancied for the Betfair hurdle. Had to be reshot at the start, which I don't think helped him. He was pretty good, and it took a while to get the shoe on. He got a bit lit up, didn't help himself. I think he wants further than that 2 mile trip. Stays on a mark of 133, which of course there was plenty of discussion. That was quite a lenient mark. So I'll side with him. He gets a good condition on him. Sonagino will like the soft ground and a return to this stiffer track. Paul Nicholls had a good day today. And then wouldn't it just be brilliant if No Ordinary Joe, if just off £1 higher than when second in this last year, could wrap up the festival with a much deserved winner for Nicky Henderson, who's conducted himself really well this week in what must have been a horrible time. So those are 4 that I will probably have a little bit on, all 4 of them TC, just to finish with a flourish.
Yeah, sure, I understand that. The last race of the festival, it's always good to go out with a winner, and they're all decent prices. And I agree with exactly what you said about Nicky Henderson. Hopefully, he can have a few run very well. Bold Endeavour ran actually pretty well on Thursday, as well as Lucky Place. Prior to that, Lucia as well. So he has had a couple of horses to cheer, but generally it's been a pretty down week for Hendo. I'm going to chance Waterford Whispers. I'm not super confident in this race, and I won't be having a big bet, but he shapes like a horse with a high level of potential. I liked how he finished his race last time, and if there's a star, it's probably one of the top 2 in the market. I'll just side with Waterford Whispers, given his connections. That's day 4, done and dusted. What is your nap and next best on Friday, please?
So the nap is hopefully Dino Blue will get the job done for the anti-post position, and next best is Galopin Des Champs. I think he's probably a class above in the Gold Cup.
Superb. Some people will be having that double, I'm sure. My day 4 nap is going to be Galopin Des Champs as well in the Gold Cup. I think it's almost a good thing, providing he jumps around. And my next best, it could be an each way next best, but I also like him to go close, is Pied Piper in the 210. Remember, all new SBK customers can get £30 in free bets for the Cheltenham Festival, or even after that, when you sign up and place your £10 first bet. Please join us for the last of this podcast mini-series tomorrow on Friday evening, as we review a couple of the races on Friday, talk about our highlight of the whole festival, and then look ahead to Saturday, where we look at Utopstar, maybe even a couple of races on the flat if you like that kind of stuff. Until then, best of luck.